Asterisk from my daughter. In-law said, "Don't expect a penny." Asterisk, I used to believe the world ended the day my son died. When the police called me at 5 in the morning, their voices trembling with the practiced calm of people who deliver tragedy for a living, time froze. Something in me shattered. A soundless, invisible fracture I continued to feel with every breath I took afterward. My son, Daniel Hayes, just 38, brilliant, smiling, beautiful Daniel, was gone. No one tells you that grief grows teeth. It gnaws at your ribs, your throat, your sleep, your waking hours, and yet somehow you still breathe. You still walk. You still show up to places you never wanted to go, like your daughter, in-law's mansion, for a will reading scheduled too soon after the funeral. The funeral had been a blur of black clothes, blurred faces, flowers that smelled too sweet for such sorrow. Victoria, my daughter-in-law, had cried with perfect restraint. Not messy, not broken, just enough. Her mascara didn't run, her lipstick stayed flawless. She stood beside the closed casket, like a queen performing grief for an audience she didn't care to impress. Daniel's picture, him smiling in the sun, shirt sleeves rolled up, holding 4-year-old Sophia in his arms, looked more alive than any of us. After the last condolence was offered and the final handful of dirt was thrown, I expected some warmth from Victoria. A hug, a word, a look that told me she remembered I, too, had lost someone, but no, she gave me nothing. Not at the funeral, not afterward, not even when I watched her daughter, my granddaughter, cling to her leg, asking where Daddy went. That was 3 days ago. Today, I drove up the long paved driveway toward the sweeping white mansion Daniel bought last year. The place looked like it belonged in a magazine, long windows, meticulously trimmed hedges, a front door taller than anything I had in my old neighborhood. Daniel had invited me many times, but Victoria always managed to discourage the visits. "Mom, let's do it another week. We're traveling this weekend. The house is being renovated. Victoria isn't feeling well. Maybe next month." I believed him. Mothers always want to believe their sons. But standing here now, alone, shaking, holding a small purse in one hand and my grief in the other, I wondered how many lies I had accepted in silence. The front door opened before I reached it. Victoria stood there, framed by the doorway like a portrait painted in shades of disdain. She wore a fitted black dress, tailored perfectly to her figure. A choker necklace of tiny diamonds glinted at her throat. Her blonde hair was pulled into a bun so tight it sharpened her cheekbones. She didn't look like someone in mourning. She looked like someone attending a gala, or perhaps preparing to receive an award. "Come in," she said blandly. Not hello, not how are you, not thank you for coming, just come in, as if she were addressing a delivery person. I stepped inside. The mansion smelled faintly of roses and expensive candles. A grand staircase curved above us, like a question mark in marble, and sculptures I'd never seen before lined the hallways. Daniel bought all this. Daniel lived in all this, yet I had been a stranger to it. Victoria shut the door behind me with a soft click and turned, folding her arms across her chest. Her gaze swept over me like one surveys a worn carpet, something functional, not worth admiring. "Well," she said, "before everyone arrives, let's make something very clear." Her tone stiffened something in my spine. I straightened without meaning to. She stepped closer, heels echoing sharply. "Don't expect a penny of your son's 30 million. It was not a warning. It was not information. It was a strike. A deliberate act of cruelty. Excuse me," I whispered. She lifted her chin in triumph, mistaking my shock for weakness. "Daniel discussed his estate with me many times. Everything goes to me and our daughter. But I know how mothers like you think. You'll try to appeal to sympathy, tug at heartstrings, pretend you were closer to Daniel than you were. Closer than we were." The words pierced deeper than she knew. "Victoria," I said quietly, "I'm not here for money." Her lips twisted into a smirk. "Please, you think I don't know how much you make. Daniel told me. That little retirement pension of yours, what is it? 1,200 a month. Heat crept into my cheeks, but not from embarrassment. From humiliation, from disgust. You think I'm here because of money? I asked, my voice trembling. My son just died, and your son ensured his family was taken care of, she said sharply, which is me and Sophia, not you. For a moment I stared at her. Really stared. She didn't look like someone grieving a husband. She looked like someone guarding a prize. Daniel wouldn't want this, I murmured, refusing to raise my voice. She rolled her eyes. Daniel wanted what he wanted, and he wanted me to manage everything. The confidence in her voice was unsettling, too solid, too rehearsed. She believed every word she was saying. Please, she added, patting my shoulder in the way one pats a dependent. Let's not make today harder than it needs to be. You'll get a sentimental item or two, I'm sure, a watch, a photo, maybe one of his old jackets. As if my son's life could be condensed into leftovers. I don't need anything. My voice finally steadied. I just want the will reading to go smoothly. A small, satisfied smile flickered across her lips. Oh, it will, she said. I made sure of that. We stared at each other for a moment, and suddenly something inside me, not anger, not grief, but instinct, whispered. Daniel didn't trust her. Daniel didn't tell her everything. Victoria turned on her heel, motioning for me to follow. The living room was already arranged. A long mahogany table stretched across the room, leather chairs, sparkling glasses of water, a stack of legal documents on the table's center. The lawyer sat there already, Mr. Alcott, an older gentleman with kind eyes. He stood politely when I entered. Mrs. Hayes, he greeted warmly, using my married name despite my divorce. I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you, I said softly. He nodded, then looked at Victoria. Mrs. Hayes, he said again, but this time without warmth. Her smile faltered. Good, he pulled out 2 chairs. Victoria immediately claimed the one at the head of the table. I sat near the far end, quiet, small, out of the way. Just how Victoria preferred me. People trickled in, Daniel's business partners, his childhood friend Marcus, and a couple of people I didn't recognize. They murmured condolences as they passed me, but Victoria intercepted each one with perfectly timed sobs or grateful head tilts, as if she were the main character of this tragedy. Finally, the room settled. The lawyer cleared his throat, opening the first envelope. Victoria crossed her legs, sitting straight, an air of victory radiating from her. She truly believed she had won. But I felt something in my bones, intuition, maternal instinct, the echo of my son's voice telling me something was coming. Something big, something she didn't expect. Shall we begin? Mr. Alcott asked. Victoria smiled, the picture of confidence. Let's, she said, smoothing her dress. The world seemed to hold its breath. And as the envelope opened, I swear I heard Daniel's voice somewhere deep inside me. Mom, trust me. My heart pounded once. Twice the lawyer began reading. Last will and testament of Daniel Hayes. Silence swallowed the room. Then, firstly, to my mother, Elena Hayes. The sound of my name cracked through the air like a thunderbolt. Gasps erupted, heads turned, and Victoria's face turned the color of paper. All the blood drained from her cheeks. Her smirk vanished. Her eyes widened so dramatically she looked almost childlike, caught, exposed, terrified. She wasn't expecting my name. She wasn't expecting anything about me, which meant Daniel had kept secrets from her. Mr. Alcott continued reading, but Victoria barely heard a word. Her hand trembled around her glass, ice clinking violently against the crystal. For the first time ever, I felt a shift. Power, small, fragile, but real, tilted away from her. The cruel words she'd thrown at me minutes earlier hung in the air, suddenly hollow. She had told me, don't expect a penny. But Daniel, my sweet boy, had left her out of the truth, and it was just the beginning. Because the next page Mr. Alcott unfolded was thick sealed marked privileged, and Victoria glanced at it the way a thief looks at a locked safe. Fear flickered in her eyes, fear of what Daniel had done, fear of what he had known, fear of what was about to be revealed. And for the first time since his death, I felt him, not in memory, but in presence. As if he were standing beside me, whispering, "Asterisk, Mom, she won't hurt you any more." Asterisk Victoria swallowed hard, sitting rigid. My name had already shaken her, but the next words would destroy her carefully crafted world. And deep inside, beneath the grief, beneath the heartbreaks, beneath the ache, that would never fade, a quiet, gentle flame lit within me. Not revenge, not triumph, but justice, Daniel's justice, and this was only chapter 1. The room changed after the lawyer spoke my name. It wasn't loud, not dramatic. It was steady, calm, almost gentle, but the effect was explosive. It felt like someone had dropped a stone into still water. Ripples spread through the room, faces tightened, whispers floated like nervous moths. Across the table, Victoria froze. Her fingers slackened around the glass she had been holding, and the ice cubes clinked as her hand trembled. She blinked rapidly, as if trying to clear her vision, as if she suspected she'd misheard, but she hadn't. The lawyer said my name, asterisk asterisk, my asterisk asterisk name, and that alone shattered her composure. Up until that moment, Victoria had worn her confidence like a designer coat, expensive, polished, unshakable. She had glided into the room believing the will reading was a formality, a ceremony in which she would receive her crown. Now the crown slipped. Her eyes darted wildly from the lawyer to me and back again, searching for an explanation, searching for control. But none came. Mr. Alcott, unaware, or perhaps perfectly aware, of the battle of expressions between us, continued reading. To my mother, Elena Hayes, I leave. He paused, adjusting his glasses. But the pause alone caused a stir. A shiver ran through Victoria. She swallowed hard, the muscles in her throat twitching visibly. I leave the Hayes Family Trust, valued at $18.4 million. The room exploded not with noise, but with shock. 18.4 million, my breath caught. I hadn't expected anything, not a cent, not a mention. I had come only for closure, as painful as it would be. And now, suddenly, my son's voice, his final wishes were pouring out into the world like rays of light bursting through storm clouds. "It to be used at her discretion," the lawyer added. Daniel writes, "I trust my mother more than anyone to honor the values she raised me with. Compassion, humility, integrity." My hands shook beneath the table. Tears stung my eyes. The words, the trust, the love. It was too much, too unexpected, too overwhelming. Across from me, Victoria went utterly still. Her face, normally poised and elegant, twisted into a mask of disbelief. The confidence she displayed earlier evaporated entirely. Her jaw clenched, her lips trembled, her carefully blended foundation suddenly looked too pale. "No," she blurted before she could stop herself. Heads turned. She seemed to realize she'd spoken too loudly and tried to recover, straightening, forcing her mouth into a stiff line. But the damage was done. Her fear was visible, her panic palpable, her mask broken. "Continue," she said sharply, her voice cracking. "Read the rest." Mr. Alcott nodded, turning another page. "To my wife, Victoria Hayes." He said slowly, "I leave a monthly lifetime allowance totaling $20,000 contingent upon the conditions outlined in Appendix C." Victoria blinked. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. A monthly allowance, $20,000 a month, not the estate, not the investments, not the trust, not the $30 million. Oh my God! Someone whispered from the back. "Only $20,000, another murmured. Victoria finally found her voice. It came out strangled. This must be a mistake." "No mistake," the lawyer said gently. "Your husband prepared this with full clarity. He signed it in my presence. The terms are binding." Her breathing quickened. "But he promised me." She stopped abruptly. Grief, anger, and shock collided on her face. "He told me everything was mine," she whispered. Mr. Alcott lifted his eyes. "Mrs. Hayes, your husband updated his will shortly before his passing." "How shortly?" Her voice was ice and venom. "6 months," the lawyer replied. 6 months. My heart lurched. I remembered 6 months ago. Daniel had come to visit unexpectedly. He'd shown up at my door with takeout and a tired smile. He asked if he could stay the night. We'd talked about life, about regrets, about Sophia. He had hugged me so tightly that night like he didn't want to let go. I didn't know it then, but something had changed. Something had happened. Victoria's voice sliced through my memory. "And what are these conditions?" she demanded. The lawyer lifted the appendix. "They include loss of allowance if you remarry, if you challenge the will, if you attempt to access Sophia's inheritance, if you damage Daniel's business reputation." He paused, "and if evidence arises of marital misconduct." Victoria's entire body stiffened. A murmur swept the room. Her reaction was immediate, visceral. She slammed her fist on the table. "This is insane. Daniel would never. He never suspected. He had no reason to." The lawyer cut her off gently, but firmly. "Mrs. Hayes, your husband was not ignorant of your activities." The room went silent, dead silent. Activities. Someone whispered. Victoria's face blanched so quickly she looked faint. Mr. Alcott turned the page over and gestured to the envelope sitting beside him, sealed with a gold sticker. "And that," he said softly, "brings us to the evidence Daniel attached to his will." She stared at the envelope as if it were a bomb. Her lips formed a shaky, terrified whisper. "No." I felt my heart plummet, my stomach twisted. My son had known. He had known something about his wife, something terrible, something heavy enough to reshape his entire will. The lawyer slid the envelope toward the center of the table. Its presence alone seemed to thicken the air. "As per Daniel's written request," Mr. Alcott continued, "this evidence is to be reviewed aloud during the will reading." Victoria lurched forward, her voice rising in panic. "No, you can't. This is private. You have no right. Your husband had every right," he replied. This was his final directive. Her composure collapsed entirely. The sharp, polished woman who had greeted me earlier was gone. What remained was a trembling, frantic shell. "No, please," she whispered desperately, voice cracking into raw fear. "Not here, not in front of everyone." The lawyer paused, compassion flickering in his eyes. "It was Daniel's wish." I swallowed hard. My pulse thundered in my ears. I didn't revel in her fear. I didn't enjoy her unraveling. I didn't want revenge, but I needed the truth. We all did. Victoria grabbed the envelope suddenly, clutching it to her chest like a lifeline. "You can't open this," she hissed. "You can't." She was shaking so violently that the envelope rattled in her hands. "Mrs. Hayes," the lawyer said, "if you interfere, your allowance is forfeited immediately." The words hit her like a slap. Her grip loosened, her breath faltered. "Sit down," he said softly. She dropped into her chair, defeated. Her eyes darted around the room, but no one rushed to defend her. No one spoke. No one offered comfort. Not one person. She was alone. The lawyer pulled the envelope from her limp fingers and opened it slowly. The paper tore with a soft rip. Victoria flinched. Inside were several documents, photographs, printed emails. Financial statements, transaction logs, screenshots, and at the very bottom, a USB drive. The lawyer swallowed, cleared his throat, and lifted the first document. 6 months ago, he began, Mr. Hayes discovered evidence of multiple extramarital affairs conducted by his wife, Victoria Hayes. The words detonated in the room. People gasped. Someone cursed under their breath. Victoria whimpered inwardly, hands flying to her mouth. I didn't move, not because I wasn't shocked, but because I suddenly understood. I understood the tired look Daniel carried 6 months ago. The questions he had asked me about forgiveness. The sudden decision to take Sophia for a week. Just the two of them. the hollowed sadness in his eyes when he hugged me good-bye. He had been carrying this alone. My heart cracked open again. The lawyer continued, "There are financial records showing secret accounts in Victoria's name totaling over $1.6 million. Funds were transferred from Daniel's business investment. Without his knowledge, Victoria moaned a broken, keening sound. The lawyer lifted another document. Correspondence between Mrs. Hayes and an individual named Stop. Victoria screamed, lunging forward. Two of Daniel's business partners immediately grabbed her arms, pulling her back. She struggled wildly, hair falling from her perfect bun. "It's not true, it's not what it looks like." He misunderstood. I can explain. But her voice was drowned out by the sound of her lies finally collapsing under the weight of truth. The lawyer placed the papers down. "Mrs. Hayes, everything your husband discovered was verified legally." Her body sagged. Her head dropped. She trembled like a child caught stealing. The lawyer continued gently. Daniel's decision to restructure his will was not an act of spite, but of protection, for his daughter, for his mother, for his legacy. A lump rose in my throat. My son, my sweet son, had been protecting us even as he suffered in silence. And finally, Mr. Alcott said softly, he left a video message. Victoria's head snapped up. Her eyes widened in terror. No, 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 no. The lawyer pressed a button on a small screen positioned behind him. The room dimmed, a video loaded, and there he was, Daniel, alive, breathing, smiling sadly at the camera. My heart stopped. My baby, my boy. He wore a navy sweater, his hair tousled, his eyes tired but warm. He took a deep breath. "Mom, Victoria, everyone, if you're watching this, it means I'm gone." The room held its breath. Daniel continued, voice fragile but steady. "I want to explain my choices. I want Mom to understand why I distanced myself. I want Victoria to understand what she did. And I want everyone to know I still tried to do what was right." Victoria's hands flew to her mouth. Her sobs grew loud, uncontrollable. But the video went on. "I discovered things I never imagined I would have to face: lies, betrayal, and a type of loneliness I hope no one experiences." My heart shattered. Daniel swallowed hard. "But this isn't about revenge. I didn't make this will to punish anyone. I made it to protect Mom and Sophia and everything I built." His voice cracked when he said Sophia's name. He looked down, running a hand through his hair. "Mom, I love you. I'm sorry for the years I let distance grow between us. You deserved better from me." A tear slid down my cheek. "And Victoria, I hope you someday understand why I had to do this. I don't hate you. I just couldn't leave everything in hands that didn't love me back." Victoria collapsed into silent sobs. The video faded to black. Silence followed. Long, heavy, suffocating silence. No one moved. No one breathed. Finally, Victoria whispered, He didn't mean it. He didn't understand." But even she didn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. The truth hung between us like a pendulum. Daniel knew, Daniel planned, Daniel acted, and he had placed his trust, his legacy, his daughter's future in my hands. When the lawyer closed the file and folded his hands, the room exhaled for the first time in minutes. That concludes this portion of the will. Victoria stared blankly ahead, her world in ashes. The lawyer looked at me, his voice softening. "Mrs. Hayes Elena, your son loved you very much." I nodded slowly, tears streaming freely, in that moment. Through my grief, through my pain, I felt a strange, warm certainty settle in my chest. Daniel had spoken. Daniel had chosen. And nothing, Victoria said, before this moment, mattered anymore. Because the will had changed everything. The moment Daniel's video ended, the room sank into a heavy, breathless quiet. It wasn't the stillness of peace. It was the stillness after an explosion, when the smoke hasn't yet cleared and debris is still falling. Victoria sat hunched in her chair, hands trembling on her lap. Her once perfect posture had collapsed entirely. Strands of blonde hair clung to her wet cheeks, and her mascara perfect earlier now leaked black trails down her face. Her world was unraveling in front of everyone she once impressed, and yet, despite everything she had done, I couldn't feel satisfaction. Only pain, pain for what Daniel endured, pain for the trust he lost in the woman he shared his home with, pain for the secrets he had carried alone. Mr. Alcott cleared his throat softly, a gesture of professionalism, but his eyes held fatigue, the kind that comes from delivering truths too heavy for anyone to bear gracefully. "There is more we must review," he said. Victoria jerked her head up. "No," she whispered hoarsely. "Please, please don't." Her voice wasn't commanding anymore. It wasn't confident. It wasn't sharp. It was small, pleading, terrified. But Mr. Alcott continued, "As part of the will," he said carefully, "your husband left a detailed explanation of why he made his financial decisions. These explanations are legally required to be documented and shared with all benefactors." Her lips parted. "That's not fair," she murmured helplessly, shaking her head. "This is humiliation. This is cruelty. This is Daniel's truth," the lawyer said. "His final truth." She closed her eyes, squeezing them as though the darkness behind her eyelids could shield her from everything collapsing around her. Mr. Alcott lifted the next envelope. This one was thicker, stuffed full of papers, sealed with a red stamp that read, ***, supporting evidence do not remove, ***. As he opened it, the other people in the room leaned forward. A hum of tension flickered in the air. "Before we go through these documents," he said softly, "I must read the statement Daniel left for this section." He opened a letter written in Daniel's unmistakable neat handwriting. My eyes immediately welled. "Statement by Daniel Hayes," he read aloud. "Regarding the restructuring of my estate," each word pressed upon the room like a weight. "In the last year, I became aware of actions and decisions by my wife, Victoria, that made it impossible for me to trust her with the responsibility of managing my daughter's future or protecting the values I hold dear." Victoria shook her head violently, mouthing the word *no*, again and again. Mr. Alcott continued, "I learned of infidelity, not once, not twice, but repeatedly. I also learned of financial misconduct, funds from my personal accounts and business ventures being transferred secretly into private accounts I did not authorize." A businessman in the room sucked in a breath. Another rubbed his forehead, muttering under his breath. "Daniel," Victoria whispered brokenly. "Daniel, why?" The lawyer's voice stayed steady. "I confronted Victoria with what I found. She denied it. Then she blamed me. Then she blamed stress. Finally, she blamed loneliness." Victoria flinched like the words were bullets. "But none of those explanations," the lawyer read, "erased the truth." My heart pounded painfully in my chest. I had sensed something wrong for years, but Daniel had always said he was fine, that he was busy, that married life was simply complicated. He never once hinted at the storm he was living through. The lawyer took out the first piece of evidence. A printed email. Victoria tensed so sharply it looked like she'd been electrocuted. This email exchange, the lawyer said, is between Mrs. Hayes and a person identified as Evan Willis. It is romantic in nature. A soft gasp floated through the room. Victoria's face crumpled. "That doesn't mean anything," she cried. It was. He was just talking. But the lawyer lifted another sheet. "Here is another, and another, and another, page after page, messages with different names, different dates, different pictures, different hotel receipts." Victoria groaned and slumped forward, cupping her face in her hands. "Stop," she choked. "Please stop, please. We must continue." The lawyer said gently, "These were Daniel's wishes." He set down the emails and lifted a new document. A financial report by a forensic accountant hired by Daniel. The color drained from her face faster than before. "It details nearly $1.6 million funneled into hidden accounts in your name. That money wasn't," she swallowed. "It wasn't used for anything bad. What was it used for? One of Daniel's business partners asked bluntly. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Silence revealed everything her words could not. The lawyer placed the financial report aside and reached for the USB. He also included audio files. Victoria rose abruptly, chair screeching behind her. "No," she cried. "No, please don't play those. Please, I'm begging you." She stumbled toward the lawyer in desperation, but two of the men in the room gently held her back. Her sobs echoed painfully, but the lawyer simply said, "Sit down, Mrs. Hayes." Her legs buckled beneath her. She collapsed into the chair as though all her bones had dissolved. "It's over," she whispered. "It's all over." The lawyer inserted the USB into a small speaker system. A click sounded, then a voice, Victoria's voice, sharper, crueler, alive with malice. "I don't care what Daniel thinks he knows. He's too stupid to figure out anything. As long as he keeps the money coming, he can believe whatever lie makes him sleep at night." My breath caught. The audio played on. A man's voice, unfamiliar, smug, responded, "You're really gonna milk him forever, huh?" "Of course." Victoria's recorded voice replied, "He worships me, and when he dies, hopefully not until he makes more money. I get everything anyway." Everyone in the room stared at the speaker in stunned horror. Victoria, in real life, was shaking uncontrollably. "That's not," she sobbed, "that's not what I meant. I don't even remember saying that. I was angry that day." But the lawyer pressed play again. "And his mother?" the man asked on the recording. Victoria laughed, a cold, dismissive laugh that made me shiver. "She's harmless, pathetic. She'll get nothing, and she won't dare ask for anything Daniel won't let her." A stone dropped into my stomach. The room erupted with whispers, angry, disgusted, appalled whispers. Victoria doubled over, gagging like she might vomit. I watched her, emotion swirling inside me, grief, anger, betrayal, sadness, but no satisfaction. There was no victory here. Only devastation and truth. The lawyer turned off the audio. His voice was heavy when he spoke. "That concludes the evidence Daniel submitted." Victoria covered her face with both hands. Her shoulders trembled. Sobs racked her body. She wasn't crying softly now. She was crying loudly, desperately, like a person drowning with no one willing to pull them up. But not one person moved to comfort her. Not a single hand reached out. Not a voice spoke her name. The only sound was her own unraveling. The lawyer continued, "There is one last section to read." Victoria didn't look up. Her hands stayed pressed to her face, as if she could disappear behind them. Mr. Alcott opened a smaller envelope, white, unassuming. "This contains Daniel's explanation regarding his financial decisions," he said. "He read when I realized what had happened to my marriage. I felt broken. But I did not want my pain to destroy my integrity or the people I love. I had 3 priorities." His voice softened as he continued. 1, to protect my mother, who loved me without condition. 2, to secure Sophia's future. 3, to provide for Victoria without enabling further harm. Victoria's breath hitched at the sound of her own name in his handwriting. I could not leave Victoria with full access to my estate, knowing her history and intentions, but I refused to be cruel. A monthly allowance will allow her to live comfortably without placing my daughter or mother at risk. Several people nodded. Even in death, Daniel had been gentle. I do not want this will to feel like punishment. The letter said, "It's simply the only way forward that preserves what matters most." The lawyer paused. "And then read the final line. I hope that someday Victoria will understand that love requires honesty, and honesty is all I ever wanted." The room was silent again. Victoria finally lifted her head. Her eyes were red, her mascara smudged, her face blotchy. She looked like a woman who had aged 20 years in the span of an hour. "Why didn't he tell me he knew?" she whispered. "Why didn't he talk to me?" No one answered, because the truth was cruel. Daniel had tried. He had confronted her. He had given her chances, and she had lied, again and again. And again, Mr. Alcott cleared his throat gently. "There is one final matter, custodial guardianship of Sophia's inheritance." Victoria flinched violently. No, 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 he wouldn't, he would. He had. The lawyer continued. Daniel requested that Elena serve as the financial guardian of Sophia's trust fund until Sophia turns 18. Victoria's mouth fell open. Her breathing grew harsh, unsteady. But she's my daughter. I'm her mother. You remain her parent. The lawyer said. But you will not manage her finances, not without oversight. The room watched her with a mixture of pity and judgment. As the words sank in, Victoria's expression contorted into a mix of anguish and fury. Her voice erupted into the air, raw, cracked, and broken. He chose you over me. The words slammed into me so hard I felt my breath catch. Her accusation echoed through the room, and in that moment I realized something. This wasn't just about money. This was about ego, image, control, superiority. She had always believed she was above me, better than me. More deserving, but Daniel had trusted me instead. Her rage surged. I was his wife, she screamed. How could he choose you? I looked at her, really looked. And for the first time I saw her clearly. Not through Daniel's love, not through her coldness, not through my own attempts to give her the benefit of the doubt. I saw her as she was, a woman who valued wealth over loyalty, status over love, image over truth. My voice was soft when I finally answered. Because I never betrayed him. Her body crumpled, like a pillar kicked at the base. She fell into her chair, head in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. The lawyer slowly closed the folder. This concludes the reading of Daniel Hayes' will, he said gently. Everyone stood, chairs shifted, papers rustled, people whispered, but I remained seated, frozen, because the truth, the full truth, had finally settled. Daniel had been hurting, he had been betrayed, he had been alone. And now that he was gone, the only thing left was the legacy he crafted in secret. A legacy of protection, a legacy of love, a legacy of truth. As the room emptied, Victoria remained slumped in her chair, a broken figure in a mansion too big for her now. I stood slowly. I didn't speak to her, not out of anger, not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. Daniel had said it all, and the truth behind the money was the truth behind his heart. A truth that would change everything forever. Asterisk, the final chapter asterisk, for a long moment, after the will reading ended. I stood in the silent room, watching the space where Daniel's face had flickered across the screen. It felt sacred somehow, like a doorway between the living and the gone had briefly opened and closed again. Most people had quietly left, murmuring sympathetic words as they slipped through the doorway. Their condolences floated somewhere in the air, but I barely heard them. All I heard was my son's voice. Asterisk, Mom, please take care of Sophia, and take care of yourself. I trust you completely. Asterisk, even after the screen went black, the echo of his voice lingered in the room like a fading warmth. Behind me, a fragile, broken sound trembled in the air. Victoria. She sat slumped in the chair where she had collapsed minutes earlier, a wilted flower among expensive wood and leather. The vibrant woman who had greeted me with arrogance that morning was gone, stripped away by truth, stripped away by her own actions, stripped away by the man she believed she had total control over. Now she trembled like a child left out in the cold. Her shoulders shook in unsteady waves, and her hands clutched the table as if it were the only solid thing left in her world. But I didn't go to her, I didn't speak, I didn't console. My silence wasn't revenge, no. My silence was something colder, quieter, and far more painful. Asterisk, asterisk, acceptance. Asterisk, asterisk, some people we cannot rescue from the fall. Some pain we do not have to carry. Some justice arrives without clause or cruelty. It simply arrives and settles, like snow on a quiet grave. I picked up my purse. Victoria looked up suddenly, her eyes swollen and red. Wait, she whispered. Please, I turned. Her lip quivered. Please don't hate me. Her words were so small, they barely made it across the table. I didn't hate her, but I couldn't tell her that, not yet, maybe not ever. Hate requires energy, and I was tired. Too tired to give her anything more. Take care of your daughter. I said softly, she needs you. Her face twisted into anguish, as if she'd expected me to comfort her, absolve her, console her, or at least strike back so she could feel righteous in her suffering. But I did none of those things. I simply left, because Daniel was gone, and my heart had no space for anything except him. ****. Weeks later, healing begins slowly ****. The days that followed felt muted, like the world had been dipped in gray paint. Grief is a strange creature. It doesn't arrive all at once. It drips slowly, like a faucet you can't shut off. You learn to live with the leak. Some mornings I woke with tears already running down my face. Other days, I felt a quiet calm that made me wonder if I should feel guilty. Life continued anyway. Phones rang, mail arrived. Bills needed paying. The sun dared to shine as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Daniel's trust fund transfer came through, though it felt surreal. Numbers with far too many zeros now sat in an account with my name on it, yet I didn't feel rich. I felt responsible. I felt guided. Almost as if Daniel himself was watching every choice I made. One afternoon, I visited the cemetery with fresh lilies, Daniel's favorite. The grass around his stone was soft and new. I knelt, pressing my palm against the cool granite. I got the trust, sweetheart. I whispered. But I know it's not about money. It's about what you wanted me to do with it. My voice trembled. I hope I don't disappoint you. A breeze whispered through the trees, rustling the leaves like a gentle answer. I closed my eyes. Somewhere deep inside me, I suddenly knew the truth. Daniel had not left me wealth. He had left me purpose. #***, a visit from Sophia ****, the first time I saw Sophia after the will reading. She ran into my arms with a softness that cracked me open completely. Grandma, she murmured, burying her face in my sweater, I missed you. I held her close, breathing in the faint smell of strawberries from her shampoo. Her innocence was almost unbearable. How are you, sweetheart? I asked. She shrugged, a gesture far too grown-up for a 4-year-old. Mommy cries a lot. She keeps saying sorry, but she doesn't say to who. I closed my eyes. Guilt and consequences had finally reached Victoria's golden cage. Well, I said gently, brushing a curl from Sophia's forehead, sometimes grown-ups cry because they're learning lessons. Are you crying too? Yes, I whispered. Every day. Sophia nodded as if she understood everything in the world. I talk to Daddy at night, she said. I tell him things. Does he hear me? I swallowed hard. Of course he does. Daddies always hear their little girls. She smiled, soft and sad at the same time. In that moment, I knew exactly what Daniel had wanted. Not revenge, not punishment. ***protection. Protection for his daughter. Protection for the values he lived by. Protection for his memory. So that night, after Sophia left, I opened my laptop, and I began, ##*, creating the Daniel Hayes Foundation, ****. The idea wasn't grand at first, just a thought. A whisper, ****, what if I helped children? What if I used his money to do the good he never got the chance to? Before bed, I wrote down a list of what Daniel cared about most. Education, single mothers, young entrepreneurs, sick children. By midnight, I had a mission statement. By morning, I had a name, ****, the Daniel Hayes Future Hope Foundation, ****, over the next few weeks. I worked tirelessly. Meetings, lawyers, accountants, website designers, people who looked at me, an ordinary 62-year-old woman, as if I were suddenly someone powerful. But I wasn't powerful. Daniel was. His love, his legacy, his intentions. They were the engine behind everything. Within 3 months, the foundation was registered. Within 4, we awarded our first scholarship to a shy boy who wanted to be a software engineer like Daniel. He cried when he received it. I cried with him. Every donation, every child helped, every mother supported it, all felt like planting seeds in Daniel's name. Seeds he would have planted himself if he were still alive. People began to know his name, not for his death, not for his wealth, but for his goodness, and ironically, that became my sweetest revenge, because while Victoria tried to hide from the consequences of her actions, Daniel's legacy blossomed. In the open, under sunlight, in the hands of people who needed hope. ***, Victoria's downfall, not by my hands ***, some months later. I heard through a mutual friend that Victoria's social circle had drifted away. The women who once envied her wealth now whispered behind her back. The man she had been seeing, one of the affairs Daniel discovered, had quietly vanished. Her once glamorous life had shrunk into something quieter, smaller, lonelier, but I didn't celebrate. Quiet justice isn't meant to be celebrated, it is meant to be witnessed. Victoria never reached out to challenge the will. She never fought in court. She never tried to undermine the trust or foundation. She accepted the allowance Daniel left her, the allowance she had scorned that day, and retreated behind her mansion gates like a ghost haunting her own life. Sometimes I wondered if she ever regretted it, if she ever realized she had lost more than wealth. She had lost a man who truly loved her once. But it wasn't my place to ask or to judge. The world had already done what it needed to. #****, the letter, the one I had never read ****, one afternoon, months after everything settled, Mr. Alcott visited me unexpectedly. He held a small envelope. "Daniel wrote this for you," he said. "He asked me to give it to you only after the foundation was established." My breath caught. Hands trembling, I opened it. Inside was a short letter, written in Daniel's familiar handwriting. "Mom, if you're reading this, then you chose kindness. You chose purpose over resentment. I always knew you would. Thank you for loving me, even when I didn't deserve it. Thank you for raising me to see the good in people, even when it cost you. I left you the money because you're the only one who could turn it into something meaningful. You're the only one who would use it to help others, not yourself. I'm proud of you. I love you. Danny." I pressed the letter to my chest, tears streaming freely. He called himself Danny, the name I gave him when he was 4. My boy, my beautiful boy. Even in death, he found a way to wrap his arms around me. #***, a final visit. Closure ***, nearly a year after the will reading, I visited Victoria. She didn't expect me. She opened the door wearing sweatpants and a loose sweater. Her eyes were sunken, but she looked sober. Clear, human, she blinked at me. "Elena, may I come in?" She stepped aside without a word. The house felt hollow, empty, as if even the walls had lost the will to hold themselves upright. We sat in the living room, where she once told me not to expect a penny. Now she looked like someone who had lost everything, even herself. "I'm sorry," she whispered suddenly, voice breaking. "I was terrible to you. I was terrible to him. I thought life owed me something. I thought love was a transaction." She looked up, eyes wet. "I was wrong." I nodded softly. She swallowed. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I didn't answer right away." Then, gently, I said, "Forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about releasing the weight we carry." She looked at me, hopeful and broken. "I forgive you," I said. The words surprised even me, but I felt them. I meant them. Her face crumpled and she sobbed. Loud, shaking sobs. Not the panicked, angry sobs from the will reading. These were different. These were the sobs of someone finally letting go. When she calmed, I stood and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You still have a daughter who loves you," I said softly. "Be better for her," she nodded, tears dripping onto her lap. That was all. I left quietly. Justice didn't need cruelty. Revenge didn't need vengeance. Forgiveness had done more than anger ever could. Hash hash asterisk asterisk 1 year later, Daniel's legacy lives asterisk asterisk. The foundation held a ceremony to celebrate helping its 500th child. The event was held in a small auditorium filled with families, children, and teachers. A mural of Daniel hung on the wall, smiling, warm, alive in color. Sophia stood with me on stage, holding my hand. She wore a white dress and a tiny necklace with her father's initials. When the applause quieted, the host invited me to speak. My knees shook, but I stepped forward. "Thank you all for being here today." I began. My son, Daniel, believed in possibilities. He believed in giving people a chance, even when life didn't. I paused, swallowing emotion. When he died, I thought my world ended, but through every child we've helped, his world has continued. I glanced down at Sophia. She smiled up at me with her father's eyes, and as long as this foundation exists, I said, Daniel will never truly be gone. The audience rose to their feet. Applause thundered through the hall. And for the first time since Daniel's death, the warmth in my chest wasn't grief. It was gratitude. Hash hash asterisk asterisk epilogue. Love outlasts everything asterisk asterisk that evening, as I sat in my small living room, surrounded not by wealth, but by meaning, I finally felt peace. I took out Daniel's letter one more time. I read it slowly, and then, with tears slipping down my cheeks, I whispered, "I did it, Danny. I honored you." A soft breeze brushed past my face. A feather drifted from nowhere and landed on my lap. I smiled through my tears. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe it wasn't, but I knew, deep in my bones, that Daniel was proud. My revenge had not been cruel. My revenge had not been sharp. My revenge was asterisk asterisk, kindness asterisk asterisk, quiet, steady, unshakable, and because of love, because of Daniel's love, I had become stronger than grief, stronger than betrayal, stronger than the lies that once tried to bury truth. Daniel's love did not end with his life. It lived on in me, in Sophia, in every life touched by the foundation, in every hopeful child who dared to dream again. And that, asterisk asterisk, that was the sweetest revenge of all, asterisk asterisk.